Hey everybody, this is Silverin, and today we're going to look at a 19 mists. The affixes for this mists are Tyrannical, Bursting, Volcanic, Tormented. Tyrannical, the bosses will have more health and damage. Bursting, when a mob dies, it'll apply a debuff to you, a damage over time debuff, which can stack if multiple mobs die at the same time. Volcanic, volcanoes are going to spawn. You need to avoid them. Don't get hit by them or you get locked out of your spellcasting if you were spellcasting at the time. And Tormented, 4 Tormentors throughout the map. You have to defeat them, you get an anima power, and then it makes you more powerful throughout the dungeon. So, one thing I want to note, we are going to do a double pull to start, but currently the more popular route is to skip all the packs up to essentially the first Tormentor. It's a hard skip because the 2 trees, the villagers, they have true sight, so you have to be very careful on how you route your pathing around them. But if your group is experienced and you feel comfortable with it, it's definitely a time saver in the end. Especially Tyrannical weeks, you want to get your lust on the first boss off as soon as possible. So highly recommend you have a Night Fae in your group. This using this path right here to skip some of the early trash is good. This trash in this area is extremely hard. Now these Dress Soul Callers, they upon death they will leave a like a black patch on the ground that does damage. If you have a Blood Elf in your group, get them to Arcane Torrent it. It will remove that that bonus, and then they won't leave it upon death. So double pull here, you want to interrupt the Harvester. They're going to cast a Spirit Bolt, which does damage, and then I think it's Harvest Essence, which will heal them up and silence another player. That is the high priority kick. Everyone here can be hard CC'd except for the Villager. You can see right there was a good example of bursting. We just killed, let's see, 6 mobs at the same time. That was a 6 stack of bursting. Everybody's health went down. Fortunately, we had an awesome healer who put Spirit Link down, kept everybody up. So the other thing about this pack, other than those Spike Claws, the Soul Cleavers will do heavy damage on the tank. Tank hits. You can kite them if you need to. The Villager will not apply bursting, as they will essentially die at 20% health. So that's a double pull. If you're going to do this route, I would recommend doing that on Tyrannical weeks. Fortified weeks, that can be very hard. So we don't have a rogue in the group or anyone that can CC that Harvester right there we just passed. If you do, you can sap them or imprison them with a Demon Hunter. You don't have to waste a pot essentially on that, and you could pot the first pack or the first pull we just did. But in our case, we didn't, so we used Potion of the Hidden Spirit to get by. Once everyone's clear, especially if you're pugging, make sure their animals are clear. If someone has brawn or something, make sure they're all clear. And then pull this pack. And then when you feel comfortable, you can pull in the Tormentor with this pack. So normally with Varuth, he applies a 50% healing debuff to your party. So heals are only 50% as effective. I like to do him solo. If it was Arcolith here, the Incinerator Arcolith, I feel like a lot more comfortable pulling him with that pack. So that pack we just annihilated, had 2 of those Harvesters just to hit the interrupts. Here with Varuth, the mechanics are stack for Wave of Terror, and then when he does a Carnage, you need to spread out, and the one person that gets hit is going to have a bleed on him. You can Blessing of Protection that person, as you saw I did. That was our healer that got hit. It will prevent the damage and prevent the bleed, so it's something you can do as Paladin. Unfortunately, it's on a 5-minute cooldown, so you can only do it once, and normally Varuth's going to get, I don't know, 2 to 3 off. It looks like 2 in this. So if you have a Night Fae, they can burst open this wall here, as you saw, and there's a bunch of mushrooms around. So this right here is going to give me the purple one is going to give the tank a 10% stamina buff, and I believe the other mushroom that's in there gives anyone a 10% damage buff for 10 minutes. So definitely want to get those. Extra damage, extra tankiness is highly desirable throughout the dungeon. So go straight to the second Tormentor. Sagadon's going to give you a defensive power. I recommend taking the shield or the magic damage reduction in this dungeon. Either one would be very good. So with this, the important thing here is the dungeon timer for this, I believe, is 30 minutes from this. And you really want to get 3 lusts off, especially on Tyrannical week. So you want to make sure you're lusting before 10 minutes on the boss. And in order to do that, you may or may not want to get the 3rd Tormentor. We're doing these packs fairly quickly, so we opt to get the 3rd Tormentor. And the only way you can get the 3rd Tormentor is if you have a class that can pull through the walls. So there's lots of videos out on this. You'll see our hunter. He's going to send his pet through the wall, aggro the Tormentor. The Tormentor is going to come to us, and then we will defeat it. We'll take as much damage as we can, because this first boss is one of the hardest bosses on Tyrannical week. He has a ton of health. They don't do too much damage, but it's just getting through the health. It's the amount of time you spend on the boss. It's a tough fight from that aspect. So we could have killed the Tormentor first, pulled him through the wall and killed him first, and we wouldn't activate the role play for the boss yet. But by doing this, the hunter's going to send his pet real soon. You just save a little time. The role play for the boss will activate, and you're not waiting for the Tormentor to come to you the whole time. So like if he sent the pet now, there'd probably be 20 seconds of downtime, but since he already aggroed him, we're looking at 10-15 seconds. So you're saving 30 seconds here. On fortified weeks, if you go this route, I would probably not pull this Tormentor, just because, like I said, you want to get that lust off on the boss before 10 minutes, because that'll allow you to get lust on all 3 bosses, which is very important. Or I think getting an extra lust off in the dungeon is more important than having this Tormentor power on one boss. But I could be wrong. The first boss is very difficult, but that's just what we did in this scenario. Or that's not what we did here, but I would do that on fortified weeks. So Arcolith drops flame patches, and then you want to get your kick his Inferno. If you don't, it's heavy AoE damage to the entire team. As you can see, I track interrupts on the right, but being a Paladin is great for interrupts, especially in a pug environment. You can get most of the high priority interrupts yourself, and you have a ranged interrupt with Avenger Shield. So you can interrupt from range, you can interrupt close. It's just awesome class for pugging. But fortunately, I'm in a guild group and there's lots of communication. So a couple of mechanics here. What you're going to want to do is focus the tree. When the tree gets to 20% health, he will put a huge damage buff on Malak. I believe it's 100%. So you're going to want to save all your cooldowns for that phase. Malak's going to do a couple things. He's going to cast Spirit Bolt. Force Compliance is going to put those blue swirlies on the ground. And he's going to cast a Fear right after the second Force Compliance. We have a shaman in a group who puts down I'm not sure the name, but the anti-fear totem. There are some classes that can, ignore fears, but if you don't have anything to deal with it, then what you need to do is just put yourself in a position where the fear is not going to hurt you too bad. So here's the burn phase. So what you want to do is, after that fear, at around 30% health on the tree, pop lust. And then once the tree starts, you want to pop your wings and just go all out single target damage. Burn as much as you can. There will be no damages during this time. It's just pure DPS from you and your teammates. So we got him down to 40%, which is awesome. So it means we're going to be able to 2-phase him. On fortified weeks, you could probably even 1-phase him without an issue. And then after that, it's just rinse and repeat. At 40%, we need to get the tree down again because he still has a lot of health. Force Compliance right here. You can see I move Malak out of the way so the group can get out all the blue crap on the ground, which does a lot of damage if you stand in it. Here's his second Force Compliance. And then right after that, Repulsive Vicious is the Fear. Shaman just put down the totem. Perfect timing. We didn't have to worry about that. And now we just need to focus on the tree. Tree's at 50%. So one thing I did here, I just popped my Vengeance Wrath, my wings. I definitely should have waited until we had the tree down for the burn phase, because I won't have as much damage during the burn phase. That was just a rotational error right there. Right now, if I had Avenging Wrath, I'd be doing a lot more damage, and this is the point of the fight, that you want more damage. So when you get him to, let's say you get him down to like 15% or less, and the tree, you know, comes back to life, you can just focus Malik. Don't worry about killing the tree. Just commit, burn him down, and that should be the rest of the fight for you. So that's the first part of the dungeon, and I believe that this boss is definitely the hardest. Especially because, you know, a lot of times in Mythic people focus on AoE damage, and this boss is just something you really need that single target damage. So you can see our druid just popped off that, and the hunter, and everyone did really good damage there. So no issues with this group. All right, so coming to the maze, you can see we tagged the Mistcaller. You play a little mini game. You know, which portal do you go through? If you get it wrong, then you have to you get sent back to the start. It's all based on which one of the symbols is essentially unique. Something about the maze, and you'll see the hunter here. He just sent his pet through the wall to our right to pull an extra pack. You can pull extra packs through the wall if you have a hunter, warlock, shaman with the earth elemental. I'm a little indecisive here. What I'm doing is I'm waiting for that pack to come through so we can do a double pull here. I probably should have just picked one aggro to pull the other. So here it comes through. Grab aggro on this. Go get aggro quickly on the second pack. Luckily, I had scales, so I can put out a high amount of burst really quick. So, all right. So what we're looking at here, defenders, or the guardians, have that frontal spear ability. You can avoid it, but you want to make sure it gets placed in a place where your melee players are not. The defenders, the defenders have that. You'll see tenders in this mage. They cast Nourish, which will do a huge heal to one of the party members. High priority interrupt. And then I believe it's the Stingers or the Stalkers. They'll cast Bramblethorn or something. That you absolutely need to interrupt. It'll root everybody. And as a paladin, yeah, you can get out of the root, but your other teammates, especially melee, will be stuck in the root, and then those guardians and defenders will do their AoE spears, and then the next thing you know, your whole party's dead. So those two interrupts are extremely high priority, and be extremely liberal with your stuns and your blinding light. Just use them on cooldown. Interrupt as much as you can. These mobs are not too bad, which is why a lot of people pull extra packs in the maze. But if you do not get the interrupts, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So just stun the guardian, just, you know, lessen the damage for a little bit. Defenders, spear flurry in there. We got a stinger and a stalker. Again, this pack's not bad at all. So just a little bit of kiting if you need to. On fortified weeks, there'll probably be a lot more kiting. I obviously need to do a better job getting out of those spear flurries, but if I know I can tank it, sometimes it's better to just stay put so that the spear flurry doesn't go in a direction of your melee DPS. So like I said, the maze minigame is going to make the maze route random. There's some walls you can pull through, and there are some great content creators on YouTube and just on websites that have good pull guides on what you can pull. That right there, the Bramblethorn coat, is a high priority interrupt, because that's the one that will root you. So there's two things that you can soft interrupt, the Bramblethorn coat and the Nourish by the Tender. Focus on those. So you can see here, bursting is not a really big deal. There is a high health disparity between the tenders and the defenders, and the defenders have the most health. Normally they'll be the last ones to die, so you don't really have to worry about bursting in this part of the maze unless you pull, extra packs. So So here we're solving the maze. Like I said, it's random. So at the end, you're going to come out with a percentage that could vary anywhere between, depending on how many mobs you did in here, anywhere, let's say 45 to 75%. And then you just need to adjust your pulls on the after the second boss to recover the percentage, essentially. So you can see that Snightborn applies a poison. As a paladin, you can cleanse that. I have a click over mouse macro, so I can just click over the name of who's poisoned. In this fight, it's me a lot of the time. There you go. I just cleansed it again. That's highly helpful. You definitely want something like that. You can cleanse poisons in here. Let's see. Necrotic Wake. The big one is Plaguefall. The last boss, Infectious Rains, is a disease. You can cleanse that. So very important spell to use. And it's part of, essentially with Protection Paladin, you have an amazing utility kit. And if you're not using it, then you're not playing Paladin to its highest ability. You know, they do a lot of damage and they're fairly tanky, but to get the most out of it and to help your team, to help your healer, and help your teammates do more DPS, you need to use your utility. Blessing of Freedom, Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Sacrifice on your healer when there's high damage coming out. Lay on Hands for when there's that big mistake. It's essentially, you know, you don't have a battle res. Lay on Hands is like your battle res. You don't save it, just use it. It's going to be on a 7-minute cooldown. If I know, you know, you're only going to get a couple per dungeon, but it's just a huge bonus. If it's Tyrannical week, you probably should save it for the bosses. I used it earlier for something. So, all right, second boss of the dungeon. As you can see, we came in. We have 2 minutes still before we can lust. So just pull and lust when you can. But you want to make sure you lust before like 11 minutes, because if you don't, you're not going to have lust before the last boss. And that is, the last boss is a long fight. Lots of things to dodge. Lust really, really helps out with that last boss. So with Mist Colors, a couple things as a tank. There's a patty cake ability that you have to interrupt. You are the only one that sees that ability. You're the only one that can interrupt it. So if you miss that interrupt, you will be disoriented. The Mist Caller will threat on somebody else, and it's really hard. As a paladin, if you screw it up, you can cast Divine Shield, and it will cleanse your disorientation. But you want to use a cancel macro so you can immediately get threat right back on the Mist Caller. So you have one get out of jail free card. I mean, you don't want to use it, but if for some reason it's Volcanic pops you up or Storming hits you up and you can't interrupt it, it is a get out of jail free card. So the Vulpin's going to pop up. Your team needs to hard CC the Vulpin. You can also kill it, but if you can just hard see it, you don't have to waste the damage on it. If it actually runs into anyone, it will freeze them. They can't move. They're going to take damage. They'll probably get hit by a dodgeball, which you see the arrows on the ground right here. She shoots blue magical balls out, and you have to dodge them if you get hit. A lot of damage, I believe. We'll see soon, but I believe someone might get hit in a little bit. And then at 70%, 40%, and 10%, there's a little mini game. You need to kill the clone. The boss is immune during this time. As a tank, you want to try and get the boss next to the clone so that you can, do some AoE damage to the clone and help the team. And then the team can see the dodgeball easier. But during the minigame, your highest priority, don't just run across the room and expect the Mist Caller to follow you. She's going to cast Patty Cake. So if you're across the room and you don't have an Avenger Shield to interrupt Patty Cake, then you're screwed. You're going to be disoriented, possibly even a wipe. So very important that you just slowly walk her over to whatever clone it is and help the DPS get it down. So right there you can see it one-shot our healer, the dodgeball. So it's very important to avoid those. In a fortified week, it would not one-shot, well, at this key level. But avoid those as much as you can. And then it's just doing those 3 mini games and getting it down to 0. So as you saw with that, oh, I forgot to mention, we did pop Lust after the second mini game. Lust came up during the mini game. We decided not to use it. Wait till the mini game was over to maximize our Lust timing, and then we popped it there. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the percent. I see we have 63% right now. And then I'm calculating how many extra packs we need to pull in order to get 100% before the final boss. Luckily in Mist, there's only 3 bosses, which is nice. Unlike, some of the dungeons with, what is it, Theater? Yeah, 5 bosses. Whew. All right, so Cold Heart, swirlies on the ground, avoid those, avoid the frontal. We pull it pack in here, especially on Tyrannical weeks. Pulling packs into the Tormentors is not hard. The priority here is the Staghorn. They're going to cast 2 abilities that shield and heal their party. You have to interrupt them, or you're going to be fighting these guys all day. If for some unlucky reason, no one gets the interrupt on the shield, you can Arcane Torrent the shield off of all the mobs. So that is a get out of jail free card if the shield goes off. The other one's a channel heal, so Arcane Torrent won't work on that. So the little guys, they cast some acid things on the ground. If you stand on them when they essentially, go off, you will get knocked back and thrown, and you will see that coming up. I believe I get knocked back. Fortunately, I put myself in a position where I didn't fall off, but it's definitely the other thing you want to look out for. So with these mobs, you want to do a slow kite back. You do not want to. It can get very chaotic, so you got to be careful looking at the ground. You don't want to stand in any green swirlies. So we had 100 in the group. I asked them to misdirect the pack on the right to me. Earlier, after we did that second boss, I was looking at the percentage, and I knew that we would need this pack in order to reach 100%. And not have to pull any extra mobs after the after the boss, or run across to the other side. So there's the Volatile Acid right there. That's something you don't want to be in. And then the green swirlies that will explode. So gotta watch out for those. So again, this had a Staghorn in it. Just here, use your hard CC if you have it. The more interrupts, that right there is what'll knock you back. A lot of people, if you can CC these Reavers, they do a lot of damage. They jump around to your DPS and they apply poison. It's not a fun mob to deal with. If you have like a demon hunter that can imprison, you can even freeze and trap, but then you have to still fight it afterwards. If you can avoid them, great. Fortunately, it worked out. They added into our account, and it's Tyrannical week, so it's not a huge deal. So right there, that green swirly on the ground, I missed it, and I got knocked back. Fortunately, by the pure luck, I didn't fall off. If I fell off, everyone else would just be kiting the pack, all the way back to the front. So you can see the poison being applied. I just cleansed mine. That is from the Reavers, essentially the wasps. When they jump to people, they'll apply the poison. It's something you can cleanse right away, help your healer out. And then again, just do a slow kite back to avoid the puddles that are left on the ground and don't get knocked back like I just did a couple seconds ago. So we're at 90% count now. And with bursting, only these 6 mobs, the 6 big mobs will burst on this one. This is a very efficient double pull. Highly recommend doing it. There's lots of volcanics right there. Just slowly kite back towards the boss so you can avoid the green swirlies on the ground that will knock you away. Keep the mob in your teammates' AoE abilities if you can. Our hunter just you see a white circle on the ground. That's their bastion ability, which lets them do more damage when they're in it. So if you're in a position to hold the mob still, hold the mob still. It's just going to increase your party's DPS. But number one priority is you staying alive. So kite and run away if you need to. So the packs back here, we probably went, what, 2% over maybe, are easier, and that's why a lot of people skip the trees and the harvesters in the first area. So we got 6 minutes left. We've been cruising. Our lust is on a 4-minute cooldown still. You can see the time warp icon in the top right corner. So we're not going to have it for this fight. It is a Tyrannical fight, so it's just slow and steady here. He's going to do Acid Expulsion, which will put pools on the ground. Dodge them. Parasitic Infestor, high priority interrupt. You have to hit that. If you don't, he will take control of one of your teammates. And when he does that, they can't do TPS, and they start doing damage to you. So if you miss a couple of those, it could be a wipe. So I recommend, if you're running Kyrium, save your Divine Toll for when these larvae come out. Try as best as possible to help burn them down, because you can't taunt them. They're going to affix to one of your teammates and run around and try to do damage to them. So there's the Parasite Interrupt there. Some more mechanics in this fight. That Spirit Link, he's going to mind link a bunch of people with blue lines. You need to run away from the person you're linked to break the chain. If you don't, it's going to do damage while you're linked. There's another larva spawn. Do whatever you can. Try to put out as much AoE damage as you can on that, and help your teammates get them down. Another Parasite Interrupt there. That is the high priority. There's also a Consumption Interrupt. He goes to the middle and starts casting Consumption. White, right here. White swirlies are all over the ground. They do a lot of damage. Just avoid them, and you can interrupt Consumption to stop it. And that's basically the fight. It's just going to repeat. You saw there, I almost missed a Parasite Interrupt. Fortunately, the Hunter came in clutch with that one. So it is a very, very chaotic fight. So you just got to try and keep it cool. Put the boss in a good place, where there's not acid pools on the ground. So after we dodge this, you get him to a clear space where your melee and range DPS can be safe. Help heal if you have an extra, empowered Word of Glory. And normally you will have lust. You just lust on pull. There's no extra damage, burn phase, or anything. So I just got hit by 19 acid on Tyrannical. If this was a 20, I probably would have died. So yep, I got a lot of stuff to work on too, but dungeons are a ton of fun. So finish them off. We already have count. Time to 19 mists, and it was just a very fun run. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below, and have a great day. Bye.